Picture this, it's 8 a.m. and somewhere in LA, a young woman steps out of her Tesla in a perfectly coordinated pastel workout set. She's not heading to the office. Her morning begins with the $38 matcha latte, complete with antioxidants and a reformer Pilates class that costs more than a dinner date. Her phone is already angled for the perfect candid shot. To the casual observer, it's just another morning routine, but online, she's living the dream. Because today, the ultimate status symbol isn't the Chanel bag your mom loved in the 1980s or the diamond ring that used to signal I've made it. It's the curated glow of wellness as luxury. Matcha, Pilates, and shopping hauls transformed into a form of personal branding. This is the Pilates Princess, the latest cultural archetype to dominate your feed. She's curated but effortless, luxury adjacent but never tacky, disciplined but never try hard. And while she may seem like a product of TikTok, she's part of a much older lineage, one that traces back to the mid-century beauty salons, Gilded Age spas, and even Victorian seaside retreats. In this video, we're going to unpack the cult of this aesthetic, why it's exploded, what it's really selling us beyond stretchy clothes and green drinks, and how it fits into a centuries-long cycle of class performance, diet culture, and the eternal fantasy of feminine perfection. Chapter 1. The Rise of the Pilates Princess. The story of the Pilates Princess really begins on Instagram and TikTok in the early 2020s. Around 2022, the clean girl aesthetic, all slicked back buns, minimal gold jewelry, dewy skin, and neutral tone quiet luxury began to evolve. It wasn't enough to look effortlessly polished anymore. The next step was to look effortlessly healthy. Influencers began trading their oversized blazers for buttery soft activewear, their cappuccinos for green juice, and their subway commutes for midday Pilates classes in airy, eucalyptus-scented studios. This wasn't just about adding a workout to your day. It was about creating a visual narrative that said, I am the kind of woman who invests in herself. The term Pilates Princess began to circulate online not as a niche fitness label, but as a lifestyle identity. She isn't merely someone who enjoys Pilates, she embodies it. Every choice from her morning beverage to her afternoon errands reinforces the brand she's building. She takes reformer classes at boutique studios with sleek monochrome interiors, never at the local community center. Her workout sets are coordinated head to toe, usually from brands like Aloe, Lululemon, and Set Active. Sometimes accessorized with gold hoops and a designer tote bag casually slung over one shoulder. After class comes the ritualistic matcha latte, preferably with oat or almond milk, never dairy, and often from a cafe with marble countertops and minimalist branding. Her social media is peppered with unboxings of skincare that cost more than a utility bill, softly filtered day-in-the-life vlogs, and glossy shopping hauls where the packaging is as important as the product itself. The fascinating part is not just the look, but the ritual. Much like joining a sorority, there are unspoken rules and visual cues you have to adopt to belong, and many of them come with a price tag. The Pilates Princess aesthetic creates an instantly recognizable shorthand. I'm disciplined. I have disposable income. I prioritize self-care, and perhaps most importantly, I belong to a certain aspirational tribe of women who live life at a slower, softer, and more curated pace than the rest of the world. Social media acted as the accelerant. While boutique Pilates was once a quiet luxury of urban professionals and celebrities, TikTok and Instagram Reels transformed it into a performance. The algorithm loved it. Light-filled studios, pastel workout sets, and artfully arranged matcha lattes made for perfect content loops. A niche habit that might have remained hidden in wellness enclaves became a viral aesthetic archetype almost overnight, joining the ranks of That Girl and Vanilla Girl and the Coastal Grandmother as an instantly recognizable internet persona. But the Pilates Princess has deeper roots than the TikTok trends. This is not the first time fitness has been turned into a visible status symbol. In the 1920s and 30s, the rise of figure salons, women-only exercise clubs promising a streamlined silhouette catered to upper middle class women who could afford both the fees and the leisure time. These studios were not merely about health, they were social spaces complete with lounges and beauty treatments, where appearance and class signaling went hand in hand. Working class women bound by longer work hours and fewer resources were largely excluded from these wellness rituals, just as many are priced out of boutique Pilates memberships today. The lineage continues through the decades. In the 1950s, beauty salons almost doubled as social hubs where women could get their hair set while discussing the latest diet fads. In the 1980s, the aerobics boom, fueled by Jane Fonda's workout empire, turned brightly colored leotards and leg warmers into a badge of belonging to the in crowd of fit, aspirational women. By the early 2000s, pop culture gave us Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, striding across campus in a pink workout set with a smoothie in hand. Her physical presentation as much a part of her identity as her Harvard Law education. Elle may have been fictional, but she embodied the same core idea: wellness as an accessory to a carefully curated aspirational lifestyle. The Pilates Princess is simply the 2020s evolution of that idea. The clothing is sleeker, the color palette more muted, the branding more quiet luxury than neon spandex, but the underlying performance remains. It's less about the mechanics of Pilates and more about what it communicates. This is a woman who invests in her body, her time, and her appearance, and she shares it in a way that invites admiration, if not imitation. But that raises an important question. When a workout routine becomes a lifestyle signifier, how much of it is really about health? Is the Pilates Princess motivated by the physical benefits of her practice, or is she just another form of broadcasting wealth, taste, and social positioning? Chapter 2, A History of Women's Exclusive Leisure Spaces. The Pilates Princess might feel like a trend born from TikTok's endless churn of micro-aesthetics, but she has an entire family tree of predecessors stretching back well over a century. Long before oat milk matcha and reformer classes, upper-class women sought out wellness in spaces carefully designed to project both health and privilege. In the late 19th century, the most fashionable way to invest in your well-being was to escape the city and visit a European spa or seaside resort. Towns like Baden-Baden in Germany or Bath in England marketed themselves as restorative retreats where mineral water, sea air, and gentle exercise could heal the body and soothe the mind. For wealthy women, these journeys offered far more support than medical benefits. They were public stages to display the right clothing, cultivate valuable social connections, and signal leisure time, something working-class women simply could not afford. A stay at a resort was not just an indulgence in health, but an advertisement of status. In that sense, a week in the seaside was the Victorian equivalent of today's $300 a month boutique Pilates membership and the obligatory post-class selfie. By the early to mid-20th century, women's leisure spaces had shifted closer to home. The post-war 1950s saw the rise of figure salons, glamorous members-only exercise clubs that promised a sculpted body without breaking a sweat. Slenderella International was one of the most famous, offering massage treatments, calorie-controlled diet plans, and mechanical exercise machines that jiggled your waistline while you stood still. These establishments were often designed with the ambience of a luxury hotel, soft lighting, plush chairs, and uniformed attendants. As with modern Pilates culture, the clientele was almost exclusively white, affluent, and either already thin or working towards a culturally sanctioned body ideal. It wasn't just about fitness, it was about entering a space that confirmed you belonged to a certain kind of womanhood. This exclusivity wasn't an accident, it was the point. Historically, these leisure spaces function as a subtle and sometimes not so subtle form of social gatekeeping. You needed the right body, the right clothing, and above all, the right budget to participate. The workout itself was almost secondary to the unspoken social contract. Everyone in the room looked a certain way, lived a certain lifestyle, and knew this etiquette of belonging. This is where the Pilates Princess finds her historical mirror. Her pastel-clad matcha-sipping routine operates under the same quiet rules. The 1970s and 80s brought a more visible fitness boom, but exclusivity still played a role. Aerobics culture exploded with celebrity endorsement, and nowhere was this more apparent than in Beverly Hills. The Beverly Hills Health Club became a cultural icon, frequented by Cher in her high-cut leotards, Farrah Fawcett in her golden waves, and other Hollywood fixtures whose gym visits were documented almost like red carpet appearances. Jane Fonda turned the aerobics craze into a multi-million-dollar VHS empire, selling not just a workout, but a lifestyle dripping with aspirational energy. It was all sweat and endorphins on the surface, but it was also about visibility, being seen in the right place and the right outfit, the right time. What's interesting is how these spaces, whether a 19th century spa, a mid-century figure salon, or an 80s celebrity gym, all share the same DNA. They were designed to make wellness aspirational and, by extension, exclusionary. Access was as much about your ability to signal belonging as it was about your physical participation in the activities. Today's Pilates Princess is simply the Instagrammable natural evolution of the lineage. Instead of showing up at a high-profile gym in Beverly Hills, she's posting a geotag from a light-filled boutique studio. Instead of lounging in a spa's tea room, she's unboxing her $80 collagen supplements for her followers. Instead of relying on gossip over hair dryers at a beauty salon, she's curating her image through softly lit reels and carefully edited day-in-the-life vlogs. The platform has changed, but the performance is the same. Wellness as a public spectacle, dressed in the aesthetic of health, but underpinned by the mechanics of social capital. Which brings us to the central question that echoes across time. When a workout becomes a status symbol, is it still about health at all, or is it and has it always been about the art of being seen? Chapter 3, the economic performance of wellness. Health is theoretically free. You can walk, stretch, breathe deeply, all without spending a dime. But once wellness enters the marketplace, it becomes one of the most lucrative status symbols money can buy. Pilates itself is not new. Joseph Pilates developed his method in the 1920s as a rehabilitative practice for injured dancers and athletes, combining elements of yoga, gymnastics, and stretch training. His original studio in New York was functional, unglamorous, and intended for physical restoration. But in the 21st century, boutique Pilates studios have transformed that method into a lifestyle product, complete with aspirational branding, designer interiors, and price tags to match. A single reformer Pilates class at a boutique studio often ranges from $30 to $60. Many studios incentivize memberships, which can easily reach $200 to $300 per month, and that's before you add the extras. The Pilates Princess rarely arrives in old leggings and a worn-out t-shirt. Her uniform is sleek and coordinated, often from brands like Aloe Yoga or Set Active, where a single set can cost over $200. Then there's the wellness-adjacent spending: cold-pressed juices, superfood smoothies, collagen powders, and clean beauty products, luxury skincare, and of course the matcha latte. Layer all these expenses together, and being healthy becomes a four-figure monthly budget line. Sociologists have a name for the phenomenon: conspicuous wellness, a modern twist on Thorstein Veblen's concept of conspicuous consumption. Where once status was displayed through material goods like cars, jewelry, or handbags, it's now often displayed through how one takes care of oneself. Instead of a Birkin bag, you have a Hermes yoga mat. Instead of an expensive sport car, you have a $500 month wellness routine and the freedom to devote hours to it. The performance is more subtle than wearing a logo-covered handbag. But for those in the know, the signals are just as clear. The Goopification of health, named after Gwyneth Paltrow's luxury wellness empire, has made self-care a marketable commodity. Goop's product lineup, ranging from $70 face creams to $135 vitamin packs, operates on the same principle of boutique Pilates, the promise of transformation wrapped in exclusivity. You aren't just buying a product, you're buying access to a particular version of yourself, leaner, calmer, and more disciplined and more inevitable. Historically, the idea of wellness as a form of class signaling has deep roots. In the late Victorian era, leisure sports such as tennis, croquet, and horseback riding became fashionable among the upper classes. These activities were not only physically demanding, but also required specialized equipment, membership fees, and ample free time. Luxuries the working class could rarely afford. Participating wasn't just about recreation, it was about aligning yourself with a social tier that could afford both the financial and temporal costs of playing healthy. The parallel to the Pilates Princess is striking. Just as the 19th century woman in crisp white tennis whites communicated with her family's wealth and social standing, the modern woman in the $80 aloe tank top and $12 smoothie communicates that she has both the means and the lifestyle to prioritize curated wellness. In both cases, the activity itself, whether swinging a racket or performing a routine, is secondary to the symbolic value of participation. The monetization of wellness also thrives in what economists call aspirational spending. Many Pilates Princess aspirants may not be wealthy in absolute terms, but will prioritize these expenses because of the lifestyle image they project. It's the logic that once drove middle-class women to save up for couture hats or a weekend at a fashionable spa. The purchase is not only for personal enjoyment, but for social positioning. In this way, Wellness has become an economy unto itself, an industry that sells not just products and services, but identity. The Pilates Princess isn't just a consumer, she's a brand ambassador for a lifestyle that equates spending with self-worth. Every Instagram story of a post-class latte, every linked outfit in a get ready with me video feeds back into the economy, encouraging others to buy in. Which leads us to an unavoidable question. Is the Pilates Princess simply the 21st century version of the tennis club member, swapping rackets for reformers and pressed whites for matching activewear? And if so, does this mean that health is and always has been less about the body and more about the performance of belonging? Chapter 4, the dark side, exclusion and body image. Here's where the pastel-colored fantasy begins to crack. For all its soft lighting and talk of self-care, the Pilates Princess aesthetic has been criticized for promoting one of the narrowest and most prescriptive body ideals of the decade. Lean, toned, never too muscular, thin but not frail, long-limbed, and as if it is permanently framed in the Lululemon campaign. This isn't about embracing all body types, it's about embodying a very specific one. And just as with the heroin chic era of the 1990s or the thigh gap obsession of the 2010s, there's an implicit suggestion that this is the right kind of healthy body. The exclusivity doesn't just stop at the body shape. Much like the private spa culture of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Pilates Princess culture is predominantly affluent and able-bodied. It demands time, the kind of flexible schedule that allows for 10 a.m. weekday workouts, and money, with the monthly cost rivaling rent in some cities. Participation requires both the financial resources and the social capital to feel comfortable in these spaces. For those without either, the message is clear. This world isn't for you. The cult framing that's emerged in recent YouTube commentary isn't just for dramatic effect. The aesthetic carries an unspoken rulebook. You need the right clothes, coordinated, fresh, and preferably brand name. You need the right body type, not just for personal satisfaction, but to fit seamlessly into the visual environment of the boutique studio. And you need the right lifestyle, a certain air of leisure and ease, untouched by the stress or physical toll of manual labor. Those who don't match these markers risk being subtly or sometimes openly excluded, whether through side eyes in classes, lack of acknowledgement, or the absence of representation in influencer content. This phenomenon isn't hardly unique to Pilates. Historically, women's leisure spaces have always had gatekeepers, whether in the form of dress codes at country clubs, or the unspoken racial and class barriers at mid-century beauty salons. The difference now is that the gatekeeping is global. With social media, the standard is broadcast to millions, creating a feedback loop where only those who already fit the mold feel encouraged to join, and their participation reinforces the mold itself. The body image pressures are compounded by the hyper-visibility of wellness influencers. Many of them monetize their Pilates Princess persona, creating an incentive to maintain the aesthetic at all costs. Even if they personally promote body positivity, the visual language of their content, the angles and the filters, the curated outfits often align with the same narrow ideal. This can lead followers to believe that achieving the aesthetic is not only desirable, but necessary for being good at wellness. There's also a psychological dimension at play. The aesthetic suggests that control over one's body is a moral achievement, that discipline, thinness, and the right outfit are evidence of self-mastery. This moralization of wellness isn't new. Victorian women's magazine is often tied to beauty and fitness to virtue, while 1980s aerobics culture presented by physical perfection as the ultimate form of empowerment. But the Pilates Princess reframes it for the Instagram era, where curated self-presentation is an everyday performance. Pop culture has always been aware of these hierarchies, even if it doesn't label them as such. Think of Mean Girls and Regina George's Gym Crew, the group that works out together not necessarily to get fit, but to be seen working out together. The Pilates Princess is the real world, wellness-ified version of that. She's not just buying into a workout routine, she's buying into social order, where belonging depends on meeting visual, financial, and behavioral criteria. For outsiders looking in, the pastel-clad, matcha-sipping image might appear aspirational, but for those inside, it can become a cage. The pressure to maintain the aesthetic, to keep up with new athleisure drops, the latest skincare launches, the IT supplements can lead to financial strain, obsessive body monitoring, and even disordered eating patterns. Wellness stops being a source of health and starts being a source of anxiety. Ultimately, the Pilates Princess reveals an uncomfortable truth. truth. While the language of the movement is about health, balance, and self-love, its structure often mirrors the same exclusionary beauty and class standards women have faced for centuries. It's not just a workout, it's an audition for belonging. And as with any audition, most people will never make the final cut. Chapter 5, Empowerment or Escapism. So where does this leave us? For some, Pilates Princess culture represents a refreshing shift in women's wellness. It encourages prioritizing health, carving out time for oneself, and embracing routines that bring both physical and mental benefits. There's a certain beauty in the ritual of arriving at the studio, slipping into your favorite matching set, moving your body in a way that feels graceful and intentional. In an era where so many women juggle endless responsibilities, from demanding jobs to family obligations, the idea of reserving a productive slice of the day for self-care can feel downright radical. Pilates in its essence is about strength, posture, flexibility, and connection between mind and body. When done without the baggage of comparison or performance, it can be deeply empowering, a practice that builds confidence and fosters a healthier relationship with movement. The matching set, the smoothie afterwards, the skincare ritual at night. For some, these are small joys that make every day feel softer and more elegant and more intentional. In this sense, the Pilates Princess aesthetic can be a tool for self-expression, a way of romanticizing daily life, much like curating a beautiful home or cooking a favorite meal. But there's another side to this coin, one that can't be ignored. For others, the Pilates Princess is simply capitalism in pastel biker shorts, a highly aestheticized, monetized vision of wellness that sells aspiration rather than accessibility. The empowerment it offers often comes with a price tag, and the barriers to entry, financial, social, and physical, mean that its benefits are limited to a small, privileged group. What's marketed as self-care sometimes becomes self-surveillance, where women measure their worth not by how they feel, but how closely they align with the curated image of health. This is where the line between empowerment and escapism blurs. On the surface, Pilates Princess culture can be a refuge from the chaos of modern life, a calm, aesthetically pleasing world of green drinks and reformer workouts. But in practice, it can function as a form of avoidance. The focus on perfecting one's morning routine, one's body, one's wardrobe can distract from larger systemic issues: the lack of affordable healthcare, the societal pressures around beauty and body image, the economic structures that keep wellness out of reach for many. The soft life promised by the aesthetic can sometimes serve as a filter over deeper dissatisfaction. Historically, this dynamic is nothing new. Women have long used beauty and leisure rituals as both an escape and a reflection of societal constraints. In the Gilded Age, high society women embraced elaborate spa treatments and athletic pursuits, partly for enjoyment, partly to maintain their social standing. In the 1950s, beauty salon culture offered women community and respite, but also reinforced narrow standards of femininity. Pilates Princess culture inherits this tension. It can be a sanctuary for self-expression, but it also risks reinforcing the very ideals from which many women seek relief. There's also the question of agency. Some critics argue that any trend so rooted in consumerism can't truly be empowering. That if the tools of empowerment are sold to us by brands, the power still lies with the seller. Others counter that women have always reappropriated consumer culture, bending it to their own purposes. Buying a $100 pair of leggings might play into capitalism, but wearing them to a workout that makes you feel strong and joyful can still be an act of self-love. The intent and the outcome can coexist, even if the system itself is flawed. Perhaps the most telling measure of whether Pilates Princess culture is empowerment or escapism lies in its flexibility. If the rituals, the workouts, the matcha, and the shopping can be adapted to fit different bodies, budgets, and lifestyles, then they have the potential to be inclusive tools for well-being. But if they remain tied to rigid aesthetics and costly gatekeeping, then the culture will continue to serve as both an escape for the few and an unattainable fantasy for many. Like most beauty and wellness trends, the truth is somewhere in between. There's nothing inherently wrong with Pilates, matcha, or shopping, but when those things become markers of worthiness and they're presented not as optional pleasures but as necessary steps towards an idealized version of womanhood, we veer into dangerous territory. The challenge is to separate the practice from the performance, to embrace the parts that genuinely bring joy or health, and to let go of the rest. In the end, the Pilates Princess can be both a symbol of self-investment and a symptom of culture that still ties women's value to how they look, how they spend, and how they're perceived. Whether she's empowering or escapist depends less on the Pilates princess herself and more on the lens through which we choose to view her. We trace the Pilates princess from her pastel filter Instagram debut all the way back to the spa towns of Victorian Europe, the figure salons of the 1950s, and the aerobic studios of the 80s. We've seen how her world is built on rituals that are both alluring and exclusionary. The coordinated activewear, the boutique studios, and the green drinks lined up like fashion accessories. We've unpacked the economics of her lifestyle, the quiet signals of conspicuous wellness, and the narrow ideals she often embodies. And we've explored the tension between her potential for empowerment and her risk of becoming just another glossy distraction from deeper cultural issues. At its core, the Pilates princess phenomenon is about more than Pilates. It's about the human desire to belong, to find identity in shared aesthetic, to align ourselves with a tribe that reflects who we want to be. It's about the way wellness, once a purely personal pursuit, has been transformed into a public performance, complete with its own costume, props, and stage. And it's about how beauty and health trends, no matter how modern they seem, are almost always echoes of the past. There's nothing inherently wrong with loving Pilates, savoring a matcha, or finding joy in well-made workout set. The danger comes when we mistake the trappings of wellness for wellness itself, when the image starts to matter more than the substance, because truth health doesn't require a $300 membership, a color-coordinated outfit, or a latte that costs more than lunch. It requires consistency, self-awareness, and most importantly, a definition of wellness that belongs to you alone. So the next time you scroll past a flawlessly curated day in my life of a Pilates princess, take a moment and ask yourself, am I admiring her health, her wealth, or simply her ability to package both into something beautiful? And more importantly, if I strip away the pastel filters, the price tags, what does my own version of wellness look like? Because maybe the real power isn't becoming the Pilates princess at all, but realize you never needed to audition for the role in the first place. I mean, for me, like in the past, like maybe 10 years ago, I was really into hot yoga, and I've been like kind of itching to start doing that again, but I'm feeling more intimidated just because I don't really know what people are wearing anymore, and it does make me scared. And then I was always drive by this like P-Volve studio. I think like Jennifer Aniston owns it, and I've been like thinking about that too, but again, it's very expensive, and like I see all the people going in there with like all their workout gear, and I just feel like I don't have all the stuff to go in, but I still want to like better myself, and I do like yoga because it helps me relax. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the whole Pilates princess and this whole new trend, because I feel like 10 years ago this wasn't even around. There's like different versions of it, but I feel like it's really amplified now with social media. Anyways, thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments below.